feel like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the super frosty lip.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel and to my journey in beauty, where every video is an adventure in makeup, beauty, and YouTube, and I'm inviting you to come along with me. Today's adventure involves a huge stack of palettes in front of me. So today's video was originally created by Andrea Sutton. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Her channel and her video will be linked below, as well as my friend Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner, which is the video I saw that inspired me to do this one. Again, I will have Annette and her video linked below as well. Let's go ahead and get into it. This video is all about unique eyeshadows within my collection. These may not be overly unique, like maybe other brands out in the makeup world do make these shades or a similar shade, but for me, these are the shadows in my collection that I find to be unique within my collection, if that makes sense. I am armed with a fresh makeup wipe and a washcloth because we're gonna swatch them all right now. So first, let's just go ahead. I'm gonna go in no particular order. I just have a stack of palettes here for you. The first palette we received this month in BoxyCharm, and it is the Pure Midnight Masquerade palette. And the shade that I'm talking about is this olivey green shimmer goodness right here called Mask Off. This is definitely unique to my collection. It is kind of a olivey green shimmer, but it does have more interest to it than that. Almost has a golden reflect. There you go. Still working with the ring light, but I do find this to be an extremely unique shade to my collection. Next is from one of my favorite palettes from Too Faced, and it is the Clover palette. And I've definitely spoken on this shade before, but it is this purple shade right here in the palette called TF Mascot. And it's just a really beautiful, I don't know that I would call it a duochrome, but it's a really beautiful purple shade. I'm swatching like, I don't even know what to say today. Like shit. Anyhow, it's a really unique purple. It's like a metallic orchid shade, and I really, really like this shade. It absolutely pops on the lid, and I use it a lot. Next comes from one of my favorite shadow brands, and it is BH Cosmetics, and this is the Zodiac palette. I do love this palette. It has fantastic mattes in here, and let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see a matte version of this video, because this one will be all shimmers. But the shade I'm talking about is called Aquarius, and it's right here. And what's unique about this shade is it's kind of yellow, kind of gold, and then it has a green shift to it. Which makes it really, really interesting to me. I absolutely love this shade, and I probably honestly would keep this palette just for that shade because it is so unique, but the rest of the shimmers in this palette are fabulous as well. Next is a palette that I got this summer, and it is my very first Violet Voss palette, and it is the Flamingo palette. And the shade that I'm speaking of today is this one right here called Surf. And this is really interesting and kind of hard to describe, but it is, I don't know, in the pan it looks greenish, goldish. On the lid, however, it can come off as green because of the gold reflect on the blue base, I guess, and I just find it to be really interesting and unique to my collection. The other shade within this palette that I think is really unique, and it ended up being one of my favorite shades in this palette, is this one right here called Pineapple. And at first glance you might think, a gold shadow, whoop-de-doo. No, this is actually a really vibrant yellow metallic shade. You can see it right here. It's just every bit of yellow, and it might have a very, very slight orange reflect to it, but I loved that shade. I liked it for on the lid, as well as I really liked it for my inner corner. And out of all the beautiful shades in this palette, it really surprised me that that was one of my favorites. Next is a palette that I've given a lot of love to lately, and I know not everyone agrees with me, but I am talking about the Emily Edit The Needs palette in collaboration with Revolution Makeup. And the shades that I'm talking about in this palette, I know not everybody liked this first shade, but this is Eve Rose, and I find it to be very, very unique, as well as this shade right here called Grateful. So this shade right here is Eve Rose, and it does have a rose tinge to it for sure, and I'm hoping you'll be able to catch the reflect, but it has a gold shift to it and almost a little undertone of purple. So I really like that shade, as well as this shade right here, which is called Grateful. It's a nice light green shimmer, but it has a gold shift to it. So I find that when it catches the light, it can translate gold sometimes and sometimes green, which I think is really fun. I think there's definitely other unique shades in this palette, and like I said, let me know if you want me to do a matte version of this video, but your girl loves shimmer, so that's what it's all about today. Next is the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe collaboration palette, and while you might think that I'm going to be going into these 4 pops of color right here that everybody loves, I actually don't find them to be overly unique to my collection. I have a lot of teals that ring similar to this, and I actually have several versions of this unique kind of blue called Twerk, but the shade I'm talking about today is this shade right here called Diva, and it is one of my favorite shades in this palette, and I don't hear people speak on it very often, but here we go. Look at how that glides on. This is just a beautiful, it's almost like a deep sage green, but smoked out. And I actually think this is beautiful for a one shadow look. Blow it out in the crease, intensify it on the lid if you want to. Add a little spray and punch it up in the center, and it's gonna be gorgeous. Or add one more color for a highlight color, but this is a really beautiful shade called Diva, if I didn't say that already. And it comes from the Jaclyn Hill palette. By the way, I'm thinking I might be crazy, but this palette is on my mind a lot in thinking about my Pan That palette for next year. So let me know what you think. The next palette came from BoxyCharm. In fact, the next 2 palettes came from BoxyCharm, and the first one is the Winky Lux Kitten palette. And I still really love, can't get it open, hashtag struggle bus. I actually really enjoy this palette still, but the shade that I'm talking about is this shade right here called Holographic. And it is not holographic, unfortunately, but it is a duochrome, and it looks like this. And it's got a nice dusty rose base with pink and blue shimmers in it. And I just love the way it looks on my eyes, so I find that to be really unique to my collection, and I absolutely reach for this palette just for that shade a lot. Another palette from BoxyCharm, I received the ColourPop Element of Surprise palette here, and the shade that I'm speaking of in this palette is this pink shade, this Barbie pink shade right here called Opulent. I love this shade. First of all, I have a lip gloss that matches it like perfectly. It's the Katy Kat lip gloss in Kitten Karma. But second of all, I just don't have a shade like this in my collection. Let's see here. I don't know. It's got like a light blue to purple reflect on it, and it is just a bright, vibrant Barbie pink. So I really love that shade, and again, I find myself reaching for this palette just for this shade quite frequently. Next is a new palette to my collection that you guys may have not seen or probably even know that I own. I actually have 4 shades in this palette that are very unique to my collection, and it is the Juvia's Place Deuce palette. And I've been wanting a Juvia's Place palette for a long time, and the reason I ended up picking up this one was because most of these shades are unique to my collection. Probably not the brown, the taupe, or this shade, even though it looks red in the pan. It's actually a nice matte terracotta color, but the rest of these shades are definitely unique to my collection. But the ones I'm going to swatch for you today are Tarte, Macarons, and Custard, and these are absolutely gorgeous. Starting with Tarte, this is a beautiful duochrome shade. It's icy. It's got pink and purple reflex to it. It makes a fabulous topper as well as an inner corner highlight. And then the next shade is that green shade called Macarons. And this is stunning. This is like a shimmery, I don't know, it looks more minty in the pan, but when you swatch it out, it actually has a warm, almost yellowy or white gold shift to it, and I just find that to be stunning. You guys know, or if you don't, I'll tell you that I love green shadows. Sorry, lighting issues. And then I guess I said this was going to be a shimmery version, so let's go ahead and talk about this shade right here called Puffs. And what I find to be really unique about this one, even though it's essentially a shimmery pink, is just how icy this is. I mean, it's like liquid metal pink here. So, I mean, these shadows are just smooth as butter. Next is a palette that I picked up from Shop Hush. And again, I haven't really talked about this on my channel, but it is the Bad Habit Athena palette, and this is a dupe from one from Huda Beauty, but the shade I'm speaking of today is this one right here called Epic. And honestly, these 2 shades right here are a big part of what drew me to this palette, as well as a couple of the mattes. But this shade Epic is really, really interesting. I'm running out of arm. Just kidding, we're almost done. So this has like a reddish orangey base, if you can see over here as I turn my arm, but then the shift to it is a purple, like a pastel purple, and I just find that to be really unique, and it is definitely stunning on the eyes. And then the last palette is kind of my dirty little secret, not really, but I'll explain. It's the ABH Soft Glam palette, and the shimmer shade that I'm speaking of is this one right here called Glistening. And of course, I really like the whole color story in this palette, even though it does have a lot of neutral tones. But this was the shade I could not get out of my mind, and probably honestly, sure that works, is what kept me wanting to purchase this palette. I'm gonna build this up just a tiny bit for you. And as you can see, it looks like a gold, but it does also have a pink reflect to it, which I find really unique because it's not like a rose gold shade. It's like a gold with a hint of rose, which is just really, really beautiful and unique. So these are all of the unique shades to my collection, shimmer version, and I hope you enjoyed this little peek into my collection. I would love to hear down in the comments if you have any specific unique shadows to your collection that you'd like to share with me. Also, I would not be opposed to doing this for blushes, highlighters, etc., lippies by category. What do you want to do? Choose your own adventure in makeup, and I hope all of your makeup days are beautiful makeup days, and I will see you in my next video soon. Bye!